And we're live. Hey people, how are you doing? Welcome to episode 255 of the Sports Therapy Association podcast. My name is Matt Phillips, creator of RunChatLive.com. And as always, this episode is being recorded live on the Sports Therapy Association YouTube channel and Facebook on a Tuesday night at 8 p.m. So you are joining us the last episode before the STA Southwest and Hands-on Hub conference, which is taking place in Exmouth this weekend, September the 20th and 21st, in collaboration with the ST School. We're obviously very excited. It's going to be an amazing weekend of presentations, workshops, and networking. And in this episode, I'm going to be joined very shortly with the one and only James Earls, who is, I'm so pleased, is going to be speaking at the conference. He is, for those of you who are not aware, a writer, lecturer, and body worker, and founder of Born to Move. And James is going to be discussing the gains we could all make by readdressing the way in which we typically view anatomy, most of us traditionally taught a certain way, as well as giving us details of his presentation at this weekend's conference. It sounds so good finally being able to say this weekend. Yep, at this weekend's conference, the knee, why do we have it all back to front? Before then, I must, as always, give thanks to my guest last week, who was the wonderful Anna Maria Mazzieri, director of the ST School, who discussed wonderfully what evidence-informed practice should mean for massage therapists and how her two presentations at the conference this weekend are related to that, namely when pain echoes trauma and when massage echoes embodiment, and also massage and manual therapy for scars, both happening this weekend. If you can't make it to the conference, then please don't feel that this episode is going to be a waste of time and switch off, because all the information we're giving and all the chances to speak with these wonderful speakers is useful for everybody, even if you're not able to make it to Exmouth. But if you are able to make it, then you may well want to check out. I'm going to have to talk about my own presentation because no one else is going to talk to me about it. I am giving a presentation I'm very excited about, actually. I've finished it off today. It's polished, it's ready. And it's called Mindful Strides, Communication Skills when Working with Runners. That's going to be at 10:30 a.m. on the Sunday in the main theatre. It's not just for people who work with runners. It's about communication pretty much with all people who are looking for your help and have got a goal, which is probably going to involve some kind of behaviour change, especially with the information you know. But it's about not just forcing your information and kind of like laying it out for that person, expecting them to do it, because as humans, we don't really normally do that, especially if it's not what we expected to hear. So I'm very excited about that. So if you are coming to Exmouth this weekend, then yeah, that would be Sunday in the main theatre at 10:30. And that ties in very well with the GATE course I've got coming up, which is starting in October. With the face-to-face day in Callander, Scotland. So if you or anyone you know are in Scotland and they're interested in setting up gait analysis in their clinic, then check out the stschool.co.uk, hit the Run Chat Live page, or just type in runchatlive.com and you'll see details about that. Right then, tickets for the conference are also available at the stschool.co.uk. And if you are an STA member and you're listening to this before this weekend, so before Saturday morning, at 8 o'clock, then you can still get tickets and you can use your STA member discount, which you'll find in the latest STA newsletter or in the Facebook members group. If you have any problems at all, any questions, obviously, as always, contact us in the normal fashion. Right then, back to tonight's show. I'm already sensing that I'm speaking a little bit slower, just in case you're wondering, and it's because hashtag Be More Like James is in the house. I'm very happy to bring up, for I think the fifth time on the podcast maybe, the wonderful writer, lecturer and body worker and founder of Born to Move, Mr. James Earls. So let's bring him up. Mr. James Earls, how are you?
Good evening. I'm very well, thank you. I just start speaking a little more quickly.
From the moment I finished my chat with you, even now, I can sense I'm trying to be more like James, just speaking a little bit slower, which is a great thing.
Well, see, I'm trying to be a little bit more Matt.
People who listen to the podcast can't see that we're looking dapper. I mean, this is, if ever there was a time to stop the podcast and go over to YouTube to see two full-bodied, hirsute, beautiful gentlemen groomed to exceptional levels, then yeah, this is the time to go over to YouTube and check us out, basically, just if that's what floats your boat. But apart from that, even apart from the visual, thank you so much for joining us once again.
Well, thank you for the invite. Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be here.
And again for coming to the conference as well. It's really, really exciting to have you part of it. like all our speakers, I mean, I've known you for a long time, and a lot of people in the STA will know you've maybe done your courses, but you just fit in so well to what we're trying to deliver, which is what I wanted to kind of ask you about. Well, I want to get into that eventually, but as always, hopefully in the couple of thousand downloads we get, there are some people who don't know you, who don't know that you're a writer and don't know anything you've done. So I know it's tricky, but could you condense it down maybe to, I don't know, 50 minutes?
So, the 35 years?
Yeah, that would be great.
Yes.
Who are you? And yeah, what do you do?
Cool. I'm originally from small town just south of Belfast. I got interested in aromatherapy and complementary therapies back in the early 90s. I studied psychology, couldn't find a job I wanted to do, but knew that I loved just kind of a natural approach to health and particularly touch, and a strong interest in aromatherapy. So eventually, after probably from my parents, a frustrating few years of searching around, I decided to train in aromatherapy and early 90s, and then it was a pretty rubbish. It's supposed to be probably the biggest, bestest aromatherapy training back in the day, but it was pretty rubbish. And I just started searching for more better information. That took me to Thomas Myers and the anatomy trained stuff and the myofascial elements. That took me so far. I got frustrated with that because there wasn't enough movement. That took me to Gary Gray, and that brought me into functional movement. And I think with that, I really got to blend a manual therapy and a movement therapy combo, and bring that into my work and into my teaching. And because I think from my point of view, I realized that there was in the manual therapy world a big gap in understanding and the use of movement. And in the movement world, there's a hesitation in understanding anatomy. There's a hesitation in touch, and there's a hesitation in going outside protocols. So I've been trying to kind of create different approaches and different understandings and different ways of seeing anatomy movement. There we go.
That is a very good condensed version of it, and wonderful as well, because I think particularly with our audience, once you said the word fascia, a lot of people, traditional and current, are excited by that term when it comes to soft tissue therapy and that. And it's so interesting now. I mean, I think in 2 weeks' time, we've got Dr. Melanie Boucher coming on to talk about research in fascia. And I love it because things are changing. And you came from a time where fascia, the pendulum did swing far too far the other way. I mean, it's kind of accepted. A lot of people who are involved in that, like yourself, have kind of said, yeah, we kind of went a bit too far. People like Gil Headley and everybody. But you were pioneers, and it was all new, and it was exciting and wonderful. But the thing is, being able to kind of realize, oh, hold on, let's just pull that cell back in a little bit. And that's what therapists have to do, isn't it? They have to realize that what they were taught a few years ago may need tweaking, may need changing. So that's been challenging for you?
It was very challenging. So yes, I was probably in the early groups of people talking about fascia within manual therapy in the UK. And it rightfully got challenged because some of the stories were just kind of out there. Some of the stories were considered to be out there, and then actually in the more recent years have been given some background, some kind of backup from better research and better stories. The work with the Steckles and Melanie Butcher that you'll have next week or 2 weeks time. And so its importance is much better established than it was 25 years ago when I started spouting on about it. So yeah, the quality of information, and so fascia it's almost like a trigger word for it. Can split the audience between absolutely I'm excited, I want to know more about that, and the other half just go, oh my god, it's them again, because there were some overly exaggerated claims that were put forward.
Fortunately, that polarized way of thinking doesn't happen in society today. There's nothing that happens in the news which kind of divides people down the center. It's just we're living in a wonderful time, aren't we? He said very cynically, but it was a kind of yeah, I mean, this will happen back in like, I don't know, kind of 2010 onwards, the debates of fascia and barefoot, and it all became started then getting very polarized, didn't it? And it got worse to where we are today, unfortunately, tragically, with horrible circumstances. So, but it's kind of
Yeah.
nice. I do feel, I don't know about you, but I do feel, I don't know, slightly optimistic in the sense that a lot of the things which we were poo-pooing now are coming back, like you say. And it's like, yeah, we got the mechanism of action wrong, but actually we're
Yeah.
starting to get an idea now, and you can
Yeah.
maybe do this, you know. So do you find it
Mhm.
exciting? Do you think we're living in a slightly positive time now? Or is that me just seeing that
In
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 terms
terms
of
of
manual
fascial research
therapy
and
in
manual
general,
therapy,
for
yes.
manual therapy and what we can do as clinicians?
Yes. Yes, it's a much more mature story, much more mature trainings that we're getting, much richer research base, which just wasn't there. I remember back in, must have been late 90s, 96, 97, a guy called Andrew Vickers, who was working for the Research Council for Complementary Medicine, Cambridge educated researcher, and he did a literature review for everything that had been published on aromatherapy and massage, and wrote a book called, I can't remember what the title was, but massage, so basically research in massage and aromatherapy. And his findings were awful. I was secretary for the local, the Belfast Northern Irish aromatherapy network, and I thought we need to hear about all of this research. And so he was a guest speaker at an AGM. Basically, he turned up and went, everything that you say and all of the, so Tishrand and Price and all the big names of aromatherapy, he contacted them all, contacted all the big names of massage therapy, and went, they can't back up their claims. Their references or just are pretty rubbish. So in the 26, 7, 8 years since then, we have such a wealth of information that we can actually, to much greater degree, rely on. That's filtered through to the schools, to the CPD providers. So yeah, it's a much more positive time. It's a more controlled, much more professional time as well, because we are better at telling the stories of what we can and what we cannot do. We don't always all follow that, but at least we have that appreciation.
That's good. I just wanted to hear you say it. It makes me feel good as well when you say it. That's good. I think it is positive, and you know what? That's what we're hoping to convey in this conference. You know, there's everything is in kind of peaks and troughs, isn't it? And I think we've been through quite a big time of bashing, particularly in manual therapy, and the whole hands on, hands off debate. And hopefully, people are not even doing that question anymore. People are more like, tell me more about what could be happening with hands on, rather than never touch anybody. It's a waste of time. So, very
Yeah.
exciting.
Mhm.
And your speciality, well, one of the things which you've been talking about an awful lot is anatomy, and how we're kind of got a better idea about how we should be looking at anatomy now to help ourselves and our patients. Where did that come from? How did you?
Out of my own frustrations, like many things, it's um, in conversation, many people I find their way to something because they've questioned it, they've hit a brick wall, they've struggled with it. I struggle with anatomy. I went through the many trainings and realized it was like I don't understand movement, and there was particularly when I was teaching anatomy trains, and back in around 2010, there were very few teachers, so it was, and the idea, the model was popular with Pilates teachers and yoga teachers, and we didn't have anyone in the school that was trained up to be able to deliver the theory. So I would be shipped off to stand in front of 30 lycra clad and young yoga teachers, Pilates teachers, and I would stand at the front and go, well, this is the theory, and this is what we do to it, and this is the manual therapy, and this is what, if you do this and do that, you'll stretch the superficial front and back line, or whatever line it was. And I realized I don't understand movement, and I struggled because it's like, well, I'm expected to stand in front of these movement therapists, and I don't understand movement. And I've gone through many crises of confidence and will continue to do so. But at that moment, I was like, I don't understand movement. How the hell can I speak to movement therapists? So I did, and I panicked and sweated a lot, and palpitations and all kinds of things. And then I realized that in talking to them, also that they didn't. Eventually, I realized they didn't understand movement. They understood exercise. And to me, that's different. Exercise is one small portion of movement. And I was like, oh, so that helped me kind of relax, but the frustration was still there. And then so the social media started kicking in, and sorry, so the weak gluteus maximus, and you will have weak gluteus maximus if you can't toe extend, it's because you won't get into that kind of long stride position, and so if you can't get to the extended hip position, you won't be able to fire your glutes. And those kind of posts, I started looking at them and I thought, actually, these supposed experts also don't seem to understand movement. Just because your hip is in extension, that doesn't mean that your glutes have fired, or that you want them to fire in that position, whatever firing means to you. I'm just realizing that, through the Gary Gray training, through standing in front of groups of people, having to talk anatomy every weekend for 15 years, I was like, there's a different way of seeing the anatomy of movement, and that hadn't been delivered to me. It was something that I kind of had to explore, had to work for, and the Gary Gray training gave a lot of that, but I didn't see it being presented. Whenever I go to workshops, still, I see many people and social media posts and books that are written. Many times people get stuck in the clinical anatomy story. So because we get taught the actions over and over again, the actions, so the gluteus maximus is a hip extensor. So every time that you see hip extension, it must be a gluteus maximus kind of thing. So, well, we get channeled into those grooves because of the actions. Like, we need to actually go beyond the clinical anatomy story. We need to see much more of the context. So the other forces. I want to come to your talk.
I don't blame you. It's going to be great. But we digress. Thank you very much. You suddenly thought I've been talking for way too long. The attention's too much on me. It's so you. But what I'd love is give me an example. Maybe not the knee, because your talk at the conference is going to be the knee, but maybe on the ankle. Your speciality is the foot, obviously. But can you give us an example where traditional anatomy in 2D with the pictures kind of really lets us and the patient down?
Yeah, in terms of function of the foot and the lower limb in general. So quite often we would hear descriptors of like the talar joint, so the upper ankle joint, the higher talar joint, whatever hell you want to call it. We would language it like it's really good at plantarflexion, dorsiflexion. But it'll groove that way. It's fantastic, brilliant. But it doesn't have a lot of rotation. And it's presented as if that's a bad thing. And it's not a bad thing. It's a thing. And it's good at ankle and dorsiflexion, plantarflexion. Bad at rotation. So it's not bad. That's a useful thing because it couples the motion. So it lets your pelvis control, change the position of your foot. It lets your foot communicate to your tibia because it's coupled because of the lower or fewer degrees of rotation. So it's about the languaging thing. So it's a lot. It's things are not good or bad. They are, and there's a quality to that. So it's those kind of things. It's being much more aware of language and the importance of it, and again, you brought it up the kind of the very much on trope at the moment, the use of language in the way that it's divisive. We use a divisive language for anatomy, that isn't always helpful or as supportive as it could be to understand the complexities of movement. So just the standard clinical anatomy story is great for learning where everything is and what they do completely out of context. I can find everything and stick my fingers and thumbs and elbows and whatever into it, but it doesn't help me understand movement. And sometimes it gets in the way of actually understanding real movement.
So that's going to interfere in our assessments and our judgments and the way we treat the people in front of us. It's going to give us hypotheses which are just,
yeah. And as another example, the 𝐶𝐸, the fascia people were very excited about the 𝐶𝐸 back in the day, and probably still are. And there was a number of papers, it's probably 10 years ago, that got excited about the 𝐶𝐸 is not a hip flexor, and they had a fantastic argument to prove that the 𝐶𝐸 is not a hip flexor. It's like, you're arguing from anatomical position. So kind of like, what's the point? What's the point of this discussion? Because you're looking at it in one fixed position. And how many of us stand in anatomical position? How many movements start from anatomical position? And why are we limiting the 𝐶𝐸s to that individual single kind of idea of being a hip flexor? When it can be it can be a hip flexor and it can be many other things. So it's sometimes our discussions get so limited because even the researchers go back to, well, we will interpret these tissues and design our studies around anatomical position and textbook actions. The 𝐶𝐸s has not read the bloody anatomy books, doesn't know what the hell it's supposed to do. It'll just do what it needs to do.
So, and this is a tricky question, but imagine you've got a magic wand and you can rewrite the syllabus for, let's talk about like an entry-level course, like where we're starting from pretty much the minimum. Would you still encourage people? Do you think a certain amount needs to be learned through anatomy charts, and this does flexion, this does extension, or would you kind of change it from the very beginning if you could? Would you introduce it in a different way?
I would introduce it in a very different way. There's still a richness and purpose for those charts, but they need a different introduction. And I would not be starting with the tables, the origins, insertions, and actions. I'd be starting with a vocabulary that lets us organize and understand the vocabulary, understand the rationale, the logic of the vocabulary that was already there and established that we've forgotten. And we'll be discussing that on the Saturday morning. And it's when you know it, it kind of makes sense in terms of the vocabulary. So I'd be starting from the movement and the vocabulary, the global vocabulary, the global movements, and look at the rationale and look at the logic of the whole structure. And then once we understand and appreciate the bigger system, for me, as a learner, or at least the way that I learn by having a more global appreciation of the system. And then I have a desire, and also I have some hooks to kind of attach on the detail. And I can then come into the center and kind of spiral in with increasing degrees of detail and precision, specificity. But I need to understand, or I believe I benefit from understanding, or at least seeing the bigger structure. I think that's one of the things we'll talk about, that I think we try to understand the system by building up from the detail. I think that for many people, that's the wrong way around. It's like, how can you understand the complexity of movement when you start talking about the biceps and the attachment of the biceps, and the bicep will do this, and it's antagonized by the tricep? It's like, well, it doesn't help me initially with the global system, especially when it's so contrived and when it's so out of context to start with. It's like, I believe, start with what I know. Don't start with what I don't know.
That's good.
Give me some It's a Gary Gray thing. Anytime you're working with a client, particularly in movement, start with success. It's like start with where they are. Start with something that they can do.
Yeah.
And don't start with the bloody biochemistry and the organelles of the cells.
I might ruin it now by saying this, but would it work like start with what you can see?
Yeah. And start with what you have.
Okay.
Why do we learn anatomy by looking at the books instead of feeling like, well, let's stand up and move
and wiggle stuff. Yeah.
feel
See what it does.
feel what happens and what are the words that we use? What are the standard words that we use in every day? And then how does that translate into the anatomical language, the official kind of language, or the nerdy language, or the medical language, and however you wish to use it. So I think we've lost the appreciation of many of those words came from and what they actually mean. And so there's a kind of re-owning some of those is a useful process, because they're being attacked and undermined, some of them, on social media.
It's great points. And I can't help thinking that, healthcare is supposed to be moving towards patient-centered care and patient-centered therapy. But if we're still learning about our patients from books and then adding a knees attached to this and that, and then we're not learning about people or patients at all, are we? We're kind of learning bits of a car, and then so it's not surprising that it's a struggle for therapists to start embracing biopsychosocial concepts and things, and looking at the person and everything in their ecosystem when they've been trained in flipping a page and looking at what the knee does, and then how that it's quite an important part, I reckon.
Yeah, that's brilliant appreciation that your use of ecosystems. Like and in biopsychosocial model, we should be appreciating their ecosystem, but yet we don't get taught about the ecosystem of their anatomy of movement. We get taught a very sterile,
hugely
non-individual, very white European male average bloody presentation of something that is completely out of context, that has no gravity, no reaction forces, no momentum, individual joints that only move on their own with no other interference of anything else in the body. Well, how the hell can we understand the ecosystem of their movement?
It's very interesting. And I mean, we've talked a lot about how the syllabi needs to change with regards to lots and lots and lots of things with manual therapy. And with private schools, it is. I mean, we both know Anna Maria, and you've taught for Anna Maria Mathieu before, and Mike Grice, and common names where they are kind of trying to put into effect, the sort of things we're talking about. But it's a struggle, isn't it, for mainstream education providers who have used the same notes for years and years and years, the same exams, to actually change. It's very tricky. But I guess we keep talking about it through shows like this, and private schools keep doing it. And in turn, students who go on the kind of like other traditional schools will kind of start saying, but hold on, isn't this, or doesn't that not make sense? And then they'll realize, oh my God, we better start changing it. I guess that's the only way, isn't it?
Yeah. And it'll be a slow process, because one of the reasons why the standard kind of clinical anatomy story is so widely taught is because it's so richly resourced. We have such fantastic atlases, and we have great videos and apps now. Videos from my bloody age, and we have also such a yeah. Yes, I read. It was like recently. It was like at least there's a generation and a half of people that have never rewound anything in their lives.
I know, or even
don't even know the concept of rewinding.
They don't understand what it's like to put sellotape over a cassette so you could re-record over it. There's no idea what that means. Yeah, remember that? No. Anyway, we digress. Two old guys with beards, honestly. But yes, so it is a slow process, and we had a couple of episodes where therapists who are still being taught these things it can be very frustrating when then they go into Facebook groups and start saying things like, I released the psoas the other day on my client, and they said, and it's like suddenly other therapists who have heard you, or maybe not heard you, because I'd like to think they'd show a little bit more empathy if they'd heard you, but they've read other things and they just jump on it like, oh no, you're doing this, you've got to be more evidence informed. And it's, I think as therapists as well, we're very much part of the educative process where we've got to be nice to other therapists and treat them more like patients rather than kind of showing our own kind of knowledge by kind of laughing a little bit at others. But it's hard, I think, as well, especially on social media, which really doesn't want you to be nice. It wants you to kind of shout and scream and yeah. But anyway, so just for in case people don't know, let's just bring up details of the course, the presentation you're going to do on this Saturday, which is so exciting. Let's have a little look and bring it up. So the knee, why do we have it all back to front? I don't want to go into too much detail because obviously people listening to this show may well be going along. But what people learn, obviously, is going to be connected to what we've talked about. But could what they learn in that presentation apply to other joints in the body? Is it more of an approach rather than specifically for the knee? Or is a lot of it to do with just the knee?
So we will be looking at the knee, yes. However, many of the concepts and the vocabulary will apply to the rest of the body. So it's for me about organizing the language that we use for anatomy. And there were, so I know Cicely asked a question about how long does it take to start thinking this way. It can be 40 minutes. It can be 2 days. There are a lot of just basic concepts that are embedded within the vocabulary that are not generally taught, and there are hopefully some surprises in there of just how the body is organized and just getting a sense of the arrangement that we have in our system and the way that we can talk about it easily and effectively. So in those 40 minutes, we will be talking about the knee, and we'll be talking about it as a system and understanding the overall logic of why the hip and the knee are arranged the way that they are, from a comparative anatomy point of view, from a clinical anatomy point of view, from a functional anatomy point of view, from a myofascial point of view, and from a very clear languaging point of view. And whenever you bring in all of those stories, for me, one of the struggles of anatomy is that it's rote learning. It's presentation of facts that you just have to learn, as opposed to a story that you could tell and something that ties all of those facts together. So one of the aims is that by the end of those 40 minutes, that you'll have an appreciation of the thigh, hip, knee as a system, without ever talking about an origin and an insertion and well, we might talk about functions and actions a bit, but we won't be going through that kind of standard anatomy presentation style. Did that answer your question, and Cecily's?
That's a great question, Cecily, and I'm interested. It made me think whether you're talking, how long does it take your students to understand this way of thinking? Because we've got two things going on here, haven't we? We've got therapists understanding it, and then you've got being able to give that idea to your clients who are also going to come in with a very kind of like traditional way of understanding anatomy, and that you're just going to fix their knee and the knee does this and it shouldn't do this. So, but I guess, I mean, what it made me think of is, I think a lot of this, if it's kind of sold to you in the right way, it kind of makes so much sense intrinsically. Like James is a master at saying things like, if that was the case, I can't do the beautiful accent now, but if that was the case, why would this happen? Or what would you expect to happen? And when it's kind of the seeds are sown that way, it kind of just drops and you think, oh yeah, that makes total sense. Because it's not rocket science, is it? When you're challenging these things, it's kind of when you get more person-centered and think and apply it to yourself, then it's a lot of it is common sense. Or not, I don't know.
It can be whenever we break out of the channels of clinical anatomy. So it's the channel, the pressure that we have to learn these facts. And when it's presented in a different way, it's like, oh, okay, so I can apply common sense. I can apply these principles and see maybe there's a different way in which we can interpret and see what's going on. So yeah, it's giving a lot more freedom to be able to understand the client in front of you.
I think that's a better way of saying it actually than common sense. It's just giving you the freedom to critically think and look and use your eyes and have that freedom rather than thinking, oh, what was it? What was that book again? And then suddenly running to your anatomy book from years ago and flicking through and going, oh yeah, that's what it does. Internal rotation when the hip is at 90, whatever it is. Yeah, good question, Cecily. Very good. Okay, right. Steve Kirby's got a question here. It looks quite long. Prepare yourself, Steve. Here we go. James, loving your talk. You said you want to look and go deeper. E.g., why a muscle is not firing with nervous/motor neurons not functioning correctly. Would you want to look that deep? The nervous system orchestrates movement. Would you agree?
So lots of discussion. I'm certainly not a nervous system expert by any means. So yes, the nervous system orchestrates movement, but is it always top down? Is it always feed forward? Is it feedback? So I would be, from a functional point of view, I would be asking a client, not asking a client, asking a client's system, why is that muscle not being given the chance or not given the information to switch on, to do what it should do? The language I find a little bit awkward in all of that, because I don't buy into the amnesiac gluteus maximus of thinking and muscle is not firing properly. So provided that the nervous system is healthy, if there hasn't been an insult to it in some way, for most normal clients coming in without an obvious impingement or stroke or something else that's hampered the nervous system in some way, I'd be asking more, why is their system not being put in, not achieving, not able to reach into a range of motion under which the muscle has no option but to fire, to switch on, to do what it should do. So I would be coming at from a very non-conscious and functional approach. Can I encourage their system to reach into a long enough stride, to reach into enough hip adduction or abduction, whatever it may be, where the story of the weak gluteus maximus is present in my head, so I can't get rid of it. So it's not the weak gluteus maximus. It's something that's not letting me. Probably kind of clinical thinking for me would be, what is preventing me from getting in a position where my gluteus maximus has no option but to fire, to contract, to work. And I would prefer the idea of working rather than firing, because it's all got a bit messy out there in social media world. So I don't know if that fully answers your question, Steve, but that's the direction I come from.
That's great. Great question, Steve. Feel free to follow up with that with any reflection on what James has said. But yeah, great question. Very good. Right then. So I want to make sure we do mention people, a chance for you to think of some more questions. This is your chance now to ask James Earls some questions about anatomy. Not too specific on the knee. Let's save that for this Saturday. But you also, wonderfully, Anna Maria is so excited about this. You're also offering something a little bit special on the Friday night, as if there wasn't enough on the Saturday and half day Sunday, which has been advertised on social media. If you're not following the ST School, then pretty much everywhere, well, it is everywhere, at the ST School. The Anatomy al Aperitivo. For those of you unaware, we should stress that Anna Maria is about as Italian as an Italian person can get outside of Italy. So this is why there are Italian references. But yeah, what's this going to be on the Friday night, James?
I think, as we've talked about before, in terms of the Therapy Expo, going to conferences, going to these kind of events, and particularly if you're going for the first time, going solo, they can be quite kind of intimidating. So we thought, well, this ticks many boxes, but one of them is to let people kind of just mingle and get together in a very relaxed, sociable space. which is the Italian cafe around the corner from Anna Maria's clinic.
It's true.
And often that is easier with a glass in hand, whether that be of Aperol spritz or apple juice or whatever is your tipple, and a few nibbles, and to have a chat, to mingle in a non kind of threatening space. And I think the excuse, I think Anna Marie just wants an excuse to maybe have an Aperol spritz or two. The excuse is that I'll be chatting about food. So I'm not sure exactly how all of this is going to work in space, but I imagine I'll be wandering from table to table and answering questions and giving a bit of a chat about the mechanics, the functions, the bits and pieces that go into making up what we call the food. So I'm looking forward to it. It's a bit of an adventure. It's a bit of an experiment. But it's very informal. It's a bit of learning, a bit of, well, hopefully a lot of fun, a lot of chat, and the opportunity to meet both old and new friends.
Sounds divine. Sounds wonderful. And that's Friday night. It is an extracurricular activity. So if you have got a ticket already for the conference, then I think it's a maximum of 20 people, because that's all that's going to fit into the Exmouth Deli, the Italian store. But yeah, I think tickets are £15 or something. So it's a little extra for those of you who are up there and you fancy to have this kind of intimate, close, relaxed learning with cheese and meats with James Earls. Wonderful. And there's still tickets for that. If you listen to this before the weekend, then head along to the stschool.co.uk and you can still sign up for that. Make sure you don't put it off, because like I say, it is a maximum of 20 people, and that's not because we're charging £500, 20 by 500. Wonderful. No, it's cheap as chips. It'd be a really nice evening if that's your sort of thing. I think it'd be wonderful. I would go along, but I'm going to be practicing my presentation the night before, and I won't be able to entertain at all or be with people. So, but yeah, it'd be wonderful.
You're much more fluent with an Aperol spritz in your hand.
No, I wouldn't be at all. I can guarantee it. But it sounds like a wonderful opportunity.
Actually, just checking that the £15 does actually include the Aperol or a soft drink and the nibbles.
I know, it's crazy. I wasn't involved in the meeting for that price. I don't know where that came from. It's typical Anna Maria Mazzieri and you. But anyway, wonderful. Yeah, sounds like a lovely opportunity. Yeah. Let's just mention as well, apart from, because I'm conscious that not everyone will be able to go to Exmouth in Devon this weekend, especially as it's only like a few days away. What else is going on in terms of Born to Move, other things that you offer? I'm going to put the website up on the screen for people who like to have the visual. But if you go along to borntomove.com, then there's a wealth of information, as you can imagine, from somebody who's been in the industry for so long, along with other professionals as well. But what other courses do you think our listeners might be interested in? What have you got going on?
Well, recently I've started dabbling with new workshops on how to understand the anatomy of movement. So that was kind of part of the theme, the chat. Mostly out of demand, mostly because people wanted it whenever I'm doing other workshops. And so that's a new offering. That's going to be it's either a one-off weekend or a series of 3. And then also by popular demand, people wanted an online course. So that I've also been struggling away over the last 6 weeks, putting a load of videos together. So that's now available on the site. People coming along to the conference will be getting a special offer on that to get some people going through it for my feedback, so that they can go through special price, but let me know how it works, and point out the typos and the misplacements and the whatever that might be going on. So both new workshops, new online course. And then not next month, but November, a new book coming out, co-authored with a wonderful breathwork teacher, Christopher Gladwell. So it'll be the first volume coming out, The Evolved Breath, which is basically why do we breathe the way that we breathe? and this came out of conversation. He's a breathwork teacher, and he gets very frustrated with the ongoing protocols of breathwork. It's like everyone's just doing their school approach. Nobody is really understanding breathwork. And so, well, do people actually understand why we breathe the way that we do? Well, no. So I'm doing the kind of the comparative evolutionary anatomy story within that book, and he does the breathwork stories. So it's so looking at the breath through the years and how that our body involvement led to the strategies that we currently have. So it's about understanding the breath rather than just following the recipe books.
Sounds amazing. That sounds, and again, such a topical, because there are different schools of thought and there's research, and we've had people on the show talking about various different systems, and should it be through the nose, and should it be through the mouth, or should it be a combination, especially whether you're a runner, an athlete, or just for everyday life. So that's going to be very interesting. Will it be animated? Are we talking some wonderful pictures again? And
there are some wonderful pictures in it and a lot of QR codes for videos linking to the practices.
Amazing.
So not so much involvement for me in the practice because I'm not a breathwork teacher or practitioner. But yeah, there are plenty of partly colored illustrations in it.
Fantastic. No, I'm just saying because your books are always very popular, not just because of the way they're kind of explain things, but also just the layout and the visual aspect. Although that can be a personal thing, but the feedback I get from them is people do love the way that they're laid out, which is important as well.
It's a different publisher this time.
Oh, okay. So ignore everything. We'll edit that. We'll take that out. And that we were just talking off air. That's quite a long time in the process, wasn't it? That.
Yeah, the idea came out of conversations from 2019, 2020. So, and then we kind of agreed and had it all set up from 21. And then I got asked to write the Functional Anatomy of Movement book. And so that took a year and a half, a year longer than it should have. And so everything just has taken longer. So we actually finished the writing of it at least a year ago. And then it's a year going through the editing and the illustrating and the re-editing and the printing and the designing and hopefully designing and then printing. And then the shipping. It's a long process.
It's a long process.
Yeah, really so I've pretty much forgotten everything I've written.
What you've written. You're gonna have to do a revised edition as soon as it comes out. But that's come on, you've got to stop saying yes to people when they come up with interesting ideas. Kind of, you're your worst enemy sometimes, aren't you?
Yes.
Yes, he says I said, yeah. Right, we are nearing the end of the time. If people want to, obviously you can go to the website, born2move.com. Also, where's probably the best place to keep up to date with what's going on at Born to Move? Is it Facebook or Instagram or both or neither?
At the moment, neither. I've been taking a break from posting on social media at least.
Yeah.
But with the new projects coming up, we've got a lot more material to kind of push. So I've been beavering away on the online course and deliberately leaving social media for a while. So it's like, we now have the resources to populate social media again. So either Instagram or Facebook, and whatever social media platform you prefer, or whichever of those two.
Just remember on Instagram, it's it's underscore Born to Move. That must have been so annoying knowing that Born to Move had gone, but hopefully you had closure on it. But yeah, it's underscore Born to Move if you're on Instagram. Facebook, easy, just Born to Move. And then you yourself, born_to_walk as well, which I know through experience you sometimes post some interesting stuff on that. So that's cool. Excellent. Otherwise, just go to born2move.com for all the information. Wonderful. Right, it's 10:02. Just check we have any more questions in there from our lovely people who joined us live. Thank you, everyone who joins us live. We really appreciate it. We know that most of you are busy and working and can't make it, which is lovely, and we do appreciate you. Those of you who are listening to the podcast, the downloads are still there. It's lovely. It's really cool, and we know that we're used on first-year physiotherapy courses and stuff like that. So it's all going very well, but we do appreciate people who come to join us live as well. Cecily Hislop I'm worried about Cecily having the final word, but Cecily says, having just Googled lazy glutes, AI has presented me with dormant bottom syndrome. Apart from the fact I now have the giggles, is it actually a problem for people, or is it a marketing gimmick? Dormant bottom. I must admit, I haven't heard that one before, but DBS could be. You never know.
And we can make it a thing.
It is now. Yeah, could be. There you go. Thank you. Yeah, thank you everyone for your comments and everything. John W says, gutted I can't be there. Have a Negroni on Friday evening. Yeah, thank you very much, John. Yes, shame we can't be there as well. But like I say, let's not have any FOMO. If the idea of this conference is we are going to move it around the country and even outside of the country as well. There's chat about taking it up to Scotland, to Ireland, and maybe even internationally as well. So don't worry. We're doing this as a nice big test to see how well it's received, to kind of show the world how we wanted to put this conference together. Both the STA and the ST School will be at Therapy Expo. We won't have the Hands-on Hub and the STA Theatre, but Anna Maria will be there presenting. I'm there presenting, and we'll both have stands as well. So those of you who can't make it, we will be at Therapy Expo if you fancy that, at the NEC as always, or maybe both. Who knows, depending on what you're up to. But like I say, yeah, this conference will be, if it all works, taken around the country. So yeah, please don't sit there having FOMO. It's just not worth it. We will bring it to you. It's the least we can do. Right, so that's then done. Just thanks once again, James Earls. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Always a pleasure.
Because you're shooting
colour
off.
envy.
No, not at all. Silver Fox. Let's not go down that road again. We've had so many beard comments tonight. I haven't shown half of them because it just would have turned into just a weird grooming kind of hour of chat. But you're having to shoot off. Where are you going? Straight after the conference, aren't you having to go off somewhere? You're going abroad? Or?
Up to Wigan. There's another conference up in Wigan, TMJ.
Oh, are you?
TMJ, British TMJ Symposium. Yes.
That's right. It's my wife's in Wigan. I'm often up in Wigan. How wonderful.
Yeah.
Of all the times I'm not in Wigan, then you're going to be out there doing it. Oh, well, never mind. Wonderful. Right. Well, thank you, James. Really appreciate your time. Really looking forward to seeing you. I'm sorry. I don't, unless Anna Maria really collars me, I won't be in the Aperitivo place. I prefer to give my space up to someone else, but I look forward to seeing you on the Saturday. And we'll catch up then in person. How exciting.
Yes, certainly.
And thanks again, everyone who's joined us live. If you would like to come along, let's have just a reminder of what's happening after the conference, life after the conference. It will go on. On Tuesday, September the 23rd, we're going to have a specialist episode, something I've really wanted for a long time, on how to read and understand research papers. Really important. And how to kind of tell whether if someone shared a paper with you saying, oh, look, this paper says this, how to have a little look and check the significance of it, maybe measure the quality. Just being able to look out for maybe red flags of not taking it to heart and cherry picking. So we're going to have special guest Ben Cormack is going to of 𝐶𝐽. I always do that. He's going to hate me for that. I always call him 𝐶𝐽. Sorry, 𝐶𝐽. I don't know why I go. I'm sorry, Ben. Freudian slip. 𝐶𝐽. Is going to be with us. Wonderful Ben Cormack, who a lot of you, I think, who know from the Better Clinician Project with Adam Meakins. I've seen a lot of his work to do with understanding research paper, and he really manages to explain it from kind of man in the street. What, Ben? That kind of Cockney thing. So which is really infectious, and it really makes it easy to understand the information. So yeah, do join us then if you're around on either Sports Therapy Association YouTube channel or Facebook page. That's Tuesday, September the 23rd. And that's going to be how to read and understand research papers with Ben Cormack. Until then, thanks once again to James Earls. Thank you, James.
Thank you.
Thanks to everyone who joined us live. Oh, absolutely wonderful. Really enjoyed it. And everyone who joined us live. And please, everyone, take care of each other and take care of yourselves as well. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.